Hey, Robert with Equip to Endure here, and we're coming to you with the EDC Part 2 video, I guess. If the truth be told, it could actually be at this point like Part 4, 5, or 6. Even though we haven't filmed them, I've actually had a lot of trouble getting this kit together for myself. And the problem's not been the contents, it's been the bags themselves. Now, in Part 1, I had a field line tactical bag that I had been using, and it was okay. It was just a little bit large, and I wasn't sure about the strapping and the backpack setup, and wanted to try some different things. And the thing that I was going with at that time was the Maxpedition Mongo, I think it was. Long story short, we didn't actually get that video filmed. As sometimes happens, life happened. We couldn't make the time to get the video because some things popped up, which was actually a good thing because it gave me some time to field test that setup before we move forward with the video. And what I found out in that process is that bag is way too heavy for what I need. That bag by itself with nothing in it was coming in over 4 pounds. And starting off with an EDC kit that the bag was 4 pounds with nothing in it, it blew my weight, and trying to transition to something lighter, it just blew it out of the water and ruined that. So that only lasted about 48 hours, and it was back to the drawing board. In between then and now, I did try to empty out the field line pack that was in the original video and see if that worked for me with less weight. It still, I don't know, it just didn't feel right. After that, you may have remembered this from a video that Adam and Bobby did a long time back on surplus gear, and it's just a old medic bag, and I attempted to use this for a little while, and actually it worked really well. As you can see on the inside, there's 2 compartments. The one compartment was perfect for my hydration, and then everything else went in the secondary pocket. And then under the flap here, there's still some gear in here, but this is a different kit. There's individual pockets here that I was able to store things in, and that worked out really pretty good. The problem came down to, this was not a dedicated I'm going to the woods pack, and it was going in and out of vehicles a lot, and traveling to friends' houses and different things. And the problem was this: twofold. One, the strap, while functional, just isn't great for, you know, I'm going to hang out and have a conversation for an hour while standing there wearing my pack. It just didn't feel really good. The second one, which was, I guess from the perspective of making sure I have my gear with me, was the more dangerous, and that was these old clips. If you put them on and you press them down real hard, they'll click and they'll stay. But when you start putting items in this bag that may give bulk, not necessarily weight, but bulk enough that it starts pushing on it, they start becoming loose and become real easy to pop off, to the point that I actually found my headlamp laying in the passenger seat of the car one day because this had just come loose and started dumping gear. So of course that wouldn't work. Just happened to be that shortly after that, or during the process, Adam got the MSM adapt packs, and we started field testing those. And as we moved into field testing, I liked the pack a lot and thought, well, maybe that's the answer for me. So we started trying it. And right now I'm going to show you part 2. This is what I'm working with now. And this is the MSM adapt pack, and go over it real quick. You've seen the video review of the bag itself. in a previous video. I'm going to just show you what I've got in here and show you what my kit has been reduced to. This front pouch, just a glow stick, quick light source with, you know, no heat, no work. Simple bandana in here. All I have is compass and one of the little Petzel Elight headlights. I really like these because they lock in the off position. And I've got white light, 2 different settings, actually 3 on, because if you count the flash. Then we get into a red flash and red on, and then a second off position. Really like this little headlight. Gives a lot of utility in a tiny package, and it locks in off position, which means I don't have to worry about it coming on in my pack. Real simple, real easy, wonderful little tool. Got an ink pen on the outside here that goes and comes depending on whether I'm carrying something to write on in my pocket or in the pack or where it's at the time. 2 Mylar blankets. Can't beat them for the weight. This, and this is the last thing in this front pouch, is simply my fire kit, which is matches, strike force, my tinder box, which as you can see it was an IgKnight brand fire starting bricks, which there are still some of those in there, along with some Fatwood collected Trioxine lighter and some Coleman fuel tabs, which, believe it or not, actually work. I'm sorry, those are Cogmans. Cogmans fuel tabs. Really inexpensive, but they work really well, so they're in there. My live fire, because it works in place of a candle and it seems to be a little more stable than a candle. This summer, I've had some candles melting in my gear, which, you know, if my pack was left in the car for a long period of time, I can forgive that. But there was times when I started getting some melting going on and the pack wasn't in the car really that long. It was just that hot outside. And, you know, I solved that problem at the time with wrapping them in tin foil. And it worked, but, you know, that gives me the ability to have a candle. I can still light it with a ferro rod, and it seems to be a little stable. You can see how grimy and dirty it is because I have actually been using that. Another lighter, man, I love a lighter. Magnesium bar with a striker, and to be completely frank, you can see the striker is about half worn out on this. I keep it around mostly just for the magnesium. It's just one more source of, you know, tinder. This is an extra striker for, you know, I can use on the mag bar, but this is also my maintenance kit for my knife. Generally, I'm either going to be in 2 situations with my knife. It's either going to be I screwed up and messed something up, in which case the little garden tool sharpener, you know, it'll straighten out a rolled edge or repair a nick in a blade that I've caused and get it rough sharp. And then just a DMT diamond sharpening pocket stone, I guess you'd say. It's not a stone, it's metallic, diamond coated, but that's a really fine grit one, and usually that handles touching up my edge. So I've screwed up, and I just need to touch up, and routinely that's all I need. That's it in the little fire kit. So we'll go to the main compartment here, and if you've seen the previous video on this, you know it's just a 2-compartment bag. It's very simplified, and you know, the reason I think that this has bridged that gap between where I started with the Fieldline Tactical and where I transitioned to with the old school military bag was the Fieldline had lots of little pockets and lots of crap going on that just, in my mind, I had to put something in those pockets, and it got to be way too much. And then, of course, we talked about the button problems on this bag. So, you know, this 2-pocket, but it's very secure, you know, kind of solved that problem. Now, first thing we got in here is just a beanie, because additional head and neck coverage is always a thing. And I'm gonna put this back in here just so you can see. I've got nothing really in here hardly. I've got plenty of room where if I decide that I'm going on a trail or anything where I want to throw some extra insulation in here, that's very important to me. I want to have the extra room for extra insulation usually. And we'll talk about the adaptability of this in just a second. But as you can see, I've got lots of room left over, and that was very important. Beanie. Cheap Walmart blue 5x7 tarp. Adam and I got this thing at Wally World, I don't know, 4 years ago. And I've used it a lot, and it's held up even under high wind. I'm assuming because, you know, pitching it to keep the heat in, you've got such a low angle, and then it being so small, there's just not the size there to stress out these really inexpensive cheap grommets. But for whatever reason, it's held up really well. You know, cleans up nice, spray it off with a water hose, and you're good to go for the next time. Of course, Hanka 550 cord, and Mora 511. Now, no, it's not full tang. Correction, this is a Mora 510. It's not full tang. It is carbon steel, so I have to monitor it and make sure it's not rusting up on me. But simple, effective, and you know, there was a reason that the 510 was used by a lot of outdoor schools as their school knife for many years until the 510 was discontinued. You know, the simplicity, there's not much there to tear up. It is very, you know, comfortable in the hand. It's large enough to get done most anything I'd need to get done, yet small enough and light enough. It adds next to no weight to this kit. Works for me. Of course, from the previous video, you guys have seen this before. It's just my, you know, liquids pouch. There's tea in there, there's sugar in there, there's coffee in there, there's the Pedialyte type electrolyte boosting packets that I can add to water. The only thing that's been added to this since the transition period was the back here. You can see this white piece here is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different water purification tablets that are in there just in case. And by putting them inside the plastic bag with the other things that don't need to really come in contact with water, you know, I'm just a little safety measure for those water purification tablets. The next item is actually new to this kit, and to me, I cannot recommend it yet, simply because I'm still field testing this. I actually have 2 of these. One that's in the kit right now that, frankly, I'm hoping, you know, at some point you know, trust yet verify, and this is the trust portion of this, is the Sawyers Squeeze Mini water system. And the reason I say that I'm trusting this particular one is I have a second one that I'm field testing. So far so good. I haven't gotten sick yet. More to come on that later. But in the interim, I do have it in here. 100,000 gallons of water. The squeeze system with the 16-ounce bag means I can, you know, I can put dirty water in this and drink. I can drink straight from the source with the straw. The cap is compatible with most drink bottles and such things as that. So that's, you know, like I said, 100,000 gallons of water, no weight or next to no weight. And look, I know, ridiculous in such a small kit, but I find my Emberlit stove a very useful piece of gear, and as you can see from the discoloration and all, and that's not corrosion, people, this is the titanium model. It's just I use it that much. It's so handy, and being titanium is so light, it really nothing to carry that. And in the situation where I may be trying to move a fire really close to my shelter or even in my shelter and make the most of very little wood to get me through the night. That gives me the ability to do so much as far as that's concerned, while the weather outside the shelter is doing what it wants to do and possibly making it difficult, if not impossible, to stay out there and keep a fire going while still maintaining my own core body temperature. That gives me the opportunity to move that fire in there. The last thing, and I'm going to try to get this turned around here. As you can see, even though this is a 2-pocket bag, inside there are these bungee pockets, one on each side, that are just that. They're just pouches inside the pocket, but it's plenty large to put my small Kleen Kanteen set up. This is my favorite water bottle. Now, I know a lot of people feel like less than 32 ounces and they just don't have enough water. And depending on where you live, that's very, very possibly true if you're in a desert environment or whatever. Where I live, it's more of a game to stay out of the water than it is to find water. Finding water is not a problem. Staying dry is more of a problem. So I don't carry a large water bottle. It's 18 ounces. I did upgrade to the metal cap, which I do prefer over the plastic cap. I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's all in my head, but it gives me a sense of security, safety, that my cap's not going to break. It's not going to be affected by anything that wouldn't affect the rest of the bottle. It does have a little silicone O-ring on there that can be taken off if you needed to put it on hot, which it cools off fairly quickly. Another bandana, which I can use as a bandana for all the things you can use a bandana for, and it also creates a buffer inside the cup that I'm nesting my bottle in, so that I don't have any rattle or anything. And the cup is just a Snow Peak 450 titanium. I've not weighed that. I can't remember what the specs are, but I mean it's one of those. And again another one of those, the concept of, if it's so light I can't tell that it's in my hand, it's probably not going to affect my kit, and it gives me something to drink out of, whether I'm making myself a hot beverage or I just stumble across Adam's campsite and raid his pot. Either way, I appreciate having a cup in there, and that nests really well in that little tiny pocket. I mean, it just fits in there. If I could, trying to hold the bag in camera, fits in there, doesn't move around, so it nests in there without a problem. Now, I was mistaken in saying that this was a two-pocket bag. Actually, let me correct myself now. I guess you could call this a 3-pocket, even though this, I think, was intended for a water bladder or a laptop. I don't use it for that. What I do is my other piece of shelter, and pretty much everybody is familiar with those, the Space brand emergency blanket, the silver Mylar on one side, and mine's obviously green on the other, grommets around it. That with the with the blue tarp, with the 2 Mylar blankets, it gives me a lot of options there. And coupled with the beanie there, obviously my first problem to solve anytime I'm in a bad situation or having an impromptu camping trip. Anytime I didn't plan to be out there overnight, the first consideration and my last consideration, and something to be considered at all times in between, is shelter, maintaining that body, core body temperature. So there that is, and that's everything in the bag. Of course I put the water bottle back in, but with everything I have, and this is bridging that gap. The Mongo that I was originally going to try to go to, the bag alone weighed a little over 4 pounds. With everything I have and the bag, I'm now at about 7 pounds, which is acceptable for an everyday carry for me. Now, obviously, I'll always have things in my pocket. You know, I make use of the little watch pocket on my jeans, and I keep a little emergency folding razor, a lighter, and a little sewing bobbin of cordage in there. You know, and I'll more than likely have my Swiss Army knife in my pocket, another lighter. You know, I'm a smoker, so I'll have obviously lighters on me, and things like that. The things in my pockets will always be there. With the addition of this, I'm pretty good for shelter and fire and water, which are my concerns. I don't really worry about food too much. The little hydration pack gives me enough sustenance to, you know, keep the synapses firing and keep my brain going long enough to collect more firewood, or, you know, make sure that cold spot in the shoulder is blocked off and that type of thing. And that's really all I need for a short period of time. So I've really reduced my weight. I've reduced the amount of junk I'm carrying. I've broken it down to just the things that I use often in every situation, and that's really a big part of the kit mentality for me, is not trying to think of every little thing I'm going to need in an emergency. To be honest, that pack would be bigger than the ottoman this stuff is sitting on. The goal is not to solve every problem that could possibly feasibly ever happen. The goal is to solve the problems that you always solve anytime you're out away from home. You know, there's shelter, fire, water. You know, keeping yourself dry, keeping that body temp up, and keeping yourself hydrated. You know, it doesn't matter if you're hiking a trail or if you're going camping or what. You're going to make sure you've got proper clothing, you've got proper shelter. You know, keep yourself hydrated, or you start losing dexterity, and you know, the cold starts affecting you more. Those things are true no matter what. So that's the goal for this kit, is to handle those things, not everything perceivable, just those things, without it weighing me down and becoming a burden to carry. And I've gotten real close. If the kit changes dramatically, we'll update you as far as that goes. There are a couple little things that I've got to transition over. I'm going to probably work a little roll of duct tape in somewhere, that type of thing, you know. But that's it. If you have questions, feel free to email us. Robert, equippedtoendure.com. Again, I'm Robert. Have a good one. If you're not always prepared, you're never prepared. Thanks.